miss you. Now to my friend from the Keystone State, Mr. Lloyd Smucker, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The thing about a sovereign debt crisis is we don't know when that will occur. And you said that, Dr. Elmendorf, you believe we have a little more time, but you also believe that we have a limited time. We already saw a softening of the treasuries earlier this year, which was concerning. We weren't sure that individuals would be willing to continue to buy our treasuries. And of course, when that happens, we'll have a sovereign debt crisis. And to your point on the interest rate, yes, they're low, but we have a lot of short-term treasuries out there that are going to need to be refinanced in the next few years, and investors already are demanding more. So they almost certainly, no matter what we do, will continue to rise. We're already at $1 trillion in debt. We get higher, you begin to get into a cycle where it's going to be very, very hard to get out of it when we have an increasing percentage of our revenue or our expenditures just on interest alone. I do want to get back to Mr. Elmendorf, Dr. Elmendorf. I believe you said revenues today are 17% of GDP. That was true in '62 as well. And you're saying today that is with the current rates in place.
Yes.
So there's a lot of thoughtful discussion here on both sides of the aisle. I think we have a math problem. We should think of it as such rather than a political problem. And so we should all be working from the same set of facts. And I really appreciate some of the members on the other side of the aisle who see a problem here as well. I think we could solve it right here in this room. And we should. In fact, I'd much rather we did that on a bipartisan basis than continue to use a budget reconciliation tool, which both parties have used and which we're going to do again if we can't get this resolved otherwise. But I do want to talk, so the 17%, the historic average of revenue is occurring after the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act rates in place. Agree?
Yes.
Okay. So at the same time that we did that, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we saw a massive impact on average households across America. $6,000 increase in revenue, 6 million people lifted out of poverty, and we maintain revenues at our historic high. That's a success story. So just extending these rates would probably continue revenue at current 17%, which I think is a good target. What's spending percent of our total revenue today, Dr. Elmendorf? Our total GDP, I should say.
It's 21% or so?
24.2%.
Oh, because
24.2%.
that is coming down given the...
It's not coming down.
I was just saying, in the last few years, there's been a bulge in spending, as you know, and some of that is coming off as GDP is growing.
CBO is projecting spending will continue to increase at an average of 4.75% per year every year for the next 30 years. We're going to be at 500% debt to GDP in 75 years, according to Treasury's report. Spending today is 24.2%. In 1962, do you know what it was as a percentage of GDP?
No, I don't, Congressman.
18.2%. How can anyone say that spending is not the problem? Revenue has held consistent, pretty consistently over time.
If I may, the issue here is that Congress and the President have put in place programs that provide benefits to older Americans through Social Security and Medicare. And those programs, for any given set of rules, are much more expensive now relative to the size of the economy.
And we have
more people are over the age of 65.
So we have to recognize that
costs have risen.
We have to
make a choice.
Yeah.
Whether you want to raise taxes to cover the existing benefit commitments, which are more expensive on an aggregate basis because of the growing population, or if you want to cut back on the benefits paid to individuals in order to keep the total down to the previous share.
Completely agree. But ignoring that issue, ignoring that problem, ignoring the demographics will continue us the path towards financial failure of some sort. I think we can solve this on a bipartisan basis. I've, of course, talked to Mr. Walker and others about a bipartisan debt commission. I think that would be great. But even if we don't do that, I think we have an opportunity right now, as we're discussing another look at the at tax policy. We ought to be putting tax policies in place that generate strong economic growth. That's one of the key ways we get out of this. It's what the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act did very effectively. And then we've got to look at the spending side of the equation. So I really hope we find some group in Congress that includes members from both parties who are really willing to look at this as a math problem and figure out a way to solve it. I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentleman, and now yield 5 minutes to my friend from California.